Welcome, friends, stoners, and Canna fam to the latest episode of the Cannabis Chronicles. And I am your boy, Dr. Bong. And this episode of the Cannabis Chronicles, we ask the question, cannabis is medicine, not just recreational. So it's not just a question, it's a statement. So welcome everyone who's checking out the show. Uh, Shout out to Best Buds Magazine, DC and all his team over there in Atlanta. Thank you so much for all you do for us. And also, not only just the Best Buds magazine, but there's also the publishing company called Pen Game Publishing. And you can check out some really cool children's books from them called Nyla's Number Garden is one of the books. So check them out. So shout out to DC, everybody in Atlanta. We thank you so much. Shout out to Sage Genetics. Uh, uh, this past the weekend. Matter of fact, happy belated Valentine's Day. This past Saturday was Valentine's Day, and we were able to have a cross section from Ascend LLC and Sage Genetics, and they had a really cool candy buffet with some chocolate covered strawberries and some chocolate covered pretzels, so they were delicious. So Miss A and I, we enjoyed them very, very much. And shout out to Cannabis Society. They got an event coming up. Listen, if you want to be involved with this cannabis thing, if you want to be involved as a, I don't know, you don't want to necessarily own a dispensary or work in a dispensary, but you want to be involved with legislation and that kind of stuff. Check out the Cannabis Chronicles and check out the Cannabis Society and become part of the platoon because it's a growing thing. So shout out to Grizz, Abe, Saki, everybody there, and we appreciate you and what you do. And again, if you want to get involved and become boots on the ground, check out Cannabis Society. Chill Pipes and Buds Feed, our boy Justin and his team at both of those locations. Thank you so much for our mascot Bong. As my name is Dr. Bong. I normally would have bongs, and when I did the show live on Instagram, you would see me consuming. I do not consume in this studio, so but I step outside on the terrace and have a little consumption when we're checking out the show and talking to the friends of the show. So again, shout out to our friends, our partners. Um, we're going to talk about a subject that a lot of people might not know that cannabis is beneficial for, but it was one of the first things that interest me because I had previously in my previous life, I worked with developmentally disabled adults. And in that population, had a resident, Billy, what's his name? Billy Walsh. I guess he's deceased now. But anyway, Billy would have seizures. And his seizures were these really dramatic experiences. And I had never experienced that as a child. I'd never, thank God, knock on wood, I never experienced having epilepsy or seeing anybody having an epileptic seizure. But my siblings saw my uncle have one, and they described it, and it was very traumatizing to them. So anyway, basically, we're going to talk about epilepsy today and how cannabis can benefit you and help alleviate the symptoms associated with epilepsy. We're going to check out the Physician's Guide to Medical Cannabis. Shout out to Dr. Matthew Rowan. Roman. I need to drink some water. Give me a second. All right. So also, we're going to talk about the podcast. We have what we do is we record here and then we share it to the podcast so you can check it out on platform. Share it. Let folks know it is there on Amazon Music. It is on Apple. It is on Spotify, iHeart, Podcast Index. The mothership is Buzzsprout, and you can check it out also on YouTube. So I like that's why the reason why Buzzsprout is the mothership is because I like the name of the platform. Obviously, we talk about cannabis, So we talk about everything based with cannabis. Weekly candid cannabis community conversation where we discuss our favorite subject, cannabis. I'm going to open up my laptop here, get set up, uh, talk to our friends here in the world. Let's see what's going on. So anyway, Governor Hochul, I guess they came up with the ruling in the proximity case in New York State. So that was something to look out for. Very, very cool. The governor did that show. So, the Cannabis Chronicles. We are more than just a show. We're a cultural shift, and with each segment, we link education, community, and entertainment. And by connecting the credible resources with lifestyle perspectives, the series becomes a trusted platform for cannabis education and empowerment in New York State and beyond. So we do what we do because we love doing what we do. We are the Cannabis Chronicles. I'm your boy, Brother Bong. Weekly candid cannabis community conversation where we discuss our favorite subject, cannabis. And many, many, many folks do not know that cannabis is a a benefit, a uh, an alternative, a alternative medicine. We're not saying that cannabis is a medicine, a cure all, a catch all, but what it does is it helps alleviate the symptoms associated with certain conditions. Whether you have chronic pain is one of the conditions. If you're in New York, check out the Office of Cannabis Management website and you can find out all of the qualifying conditions. There's several of them. Office of Cannabis management website has all of that broken down for you. Let's see. Go to the website. How about that, Dr. Bond? And here we are. So, and this is for something completely else. So, welcome to the Cannabis Chronicles. I'm your boy, Brother Bond, weekly candid cannabis community conversation. And here we go, medical cannabis. So, uh, many people in New York State didn't know, and like we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of cannabis being medically available in New York State. I think it was 2021 when the governor at the time, Governor Cuomo, signed the bill to make it adult use. But since 2016, it has been available medicinally. And for many, many years, the folks didn't know, that what it was and how, that there was a, let's see, I'm trying to look up this. I wanted to give you a listing of the qualifying conditions here in New York State. But this is a really extensive website, the Office of Cannabis Management website. You can check out some really uh, interesting information. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Here's the list. So autism, Alzheimer's, cancer, chronic pain, epilepsy, which we're going to talk about today, HIV/AIDS, inflammatory bowel disease, certain mental health conditions, PTSD, anxiety, etc., multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, neuropathy, Parkinson's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and substance use disorder. So you can actually go and, as I said, go to the website and find out all of this information for yourself. It really is beneficial. And again, I say this all the time. Everybody doesn't, cannabis isn't for everybody, but everybody knows somebody who can benefit from cannabis medicinally. So could you imagine an individual who you may know in your family who has knee pain, for example, and they're able to have a product that's cannabis based that can help improve the quality of their life? Because as I said earlier, that's the real important thing that we look to do when we look for any medicinal relief, whether it be traditional pharmaceutical medications, is the relief of the symptoms associated with the condition that we suffer from. So in there, you can on the website you can find out how to get certified, insurance coverage. I can actually find out where to buy medical cannabis, medical home cultivation, and how to get involved and the resources involved. But again, today we're going to talk about epilepsy, and from the book of The Physician's Guide to Medical Cannabis, Dr. Matthew Roman, MD. So yeah, also shout out to Jeffrey Hoffman, Esquire. He is a cannabis attorney in New York State. I actually was on a call for his while his show was going on today. If you have, LinkedIn, check him out on that. And he really is a thorough legal beagle. So check him out, Legal Eagle. Check him out, and on Instagram and on my Instagram, and that is Brother Bong 420, and LinkedIn, and I think the show's name is Ask Me Anything About New York, or anything about cannabis in New York State. It's Wednesdays, 420. I think it's like a 30-minute show. So check it out. But yes, the ruling on the proximity in case in New York State, there was a lot of companies that were really concerned about what the ruling was going to be and how it was going to affect their businesses, and were they going to have to shut down, were they going to have to, close, and then, find another location, again, establish that customer base, because it's not simple. It's not so simple. It is a building process, as we know. As I said earlier, it's going on 10 years that we have the medical cannabis space here in New York, and many people didn't even know that there was a medical program here in New York. And I guarantee you, I could probably win a few bets finding people who didn't know the medical cannabis. But as I said that earlier about quality of life, right here, John says, medical cannabis has helped my quality of life in many ways. Pain relief is just one of them. So if you know someone who has knee pain, chronic pain, did you know you could have, and they may be uncomfortable with cannabis recreationally, because you have to make a difference. You have to differentiate between the two. There are two different schools of thought. There are two different ways to come about it. Recreationally, obviously, that will be the most predominantly public-facing side of it. As I said, oh wow, Mike Wagner from I'm a Steelers fan. If everybody knows, passed away. So rest in peace, Mike Wagner. Just off the line from CBS Sports. So getting back to improving the quality of life is the most important thing that it can do for an individual. I actually, as I said, I have been in this space for 10 years now, and in the beginning, through my research, one of the first things I discovered was an individual, and this was on Vice TV. Shout out to Vice TV, because they really were a source of information when there wasn't much information, and now there's a plethora of information, and that's great, myself included. Shout out to the media and what we're doing with this and spreading the message on this. But I saw a patient in the show, and he was going through convulsions with, I think it might have been Parkinson's, and his body was moving violently. And I mean, he just couldn't even forget about, something as simple as me. Like right now, I have a cup of tea in my hand. He would not have been able to do this. As I take a sip, the tea would have been all over the room because he was violently shaking. And then this man vaporized, and he had a vape. And within about 30 to 45 seconds, he was noticeably less violent in his spasms, his spasmodic that was going on with him. So I, was interested in, how this helped this person, because again, I couldn't imagine, as I said, I've never had epilepsy. I couldn't imagine what that would live like, but having to live with that in your head, that could happen at any time, must be really, really, really serious thing. So, and then for and then for again with the actual the medications that many people are saying are very, very hard on their body as well, even themselves. So the relief that folks were using this pharmaceutical medications were highly not addictive, but they were very harsh medications, and so they were very hard on the patient. But to relieve a patient of having to deal with multiple seizures in a day, these medications work. The next thing is I saw, and again, this is before everything really kind of came to grips here in New York. Was Dr. Sanjay Gupta, and he highlighted a young girl. Her name was Charlotte Figge, and she had a rare condition where she would have multiple petit mal seizures throughout the day. Parents had, run the gambit of these medications, some of them which were very strong and harsh and were very hard on the little girl, and they really didn't know what to do. They had heard about medical cannabis through friends and family. They tried it out and it worked and it helped her. And I was then immediately like, okay, so how does this apply to individuals who now at this point were coming across my desk? And I didn't have anybody at that point who really expressed that. There was nobody who exhibited either one of those, excuse me, in either one of those conditions. But we did have a patient who we found it quite interesting because in the very beginning there were only certain products available, and they were oral solutions. And those oral solutions came in the designated different colors. There was 3 colors. Actually, there was 4 colors. There was yellow, there was green, aqua, and then blue. And blue was the high THC. Aqua was 3/4 THC, 1 CBD. Green was equal parts THC, CBD, and yellow was all CBD. And this patient, and at the time, the CBD was the most expensive product. Everything else was, the price point was not as expensive. But this person came in and he purchased CBD on a regular basis, and I think he would get about 12 vials or 12 bottles every visit. And so one time I got a chance to talk to him, and he told me about the fact that it was helping with his wife and her seizures because he was her actual caregiver, and he was actually giving his wife. His wife was using the CBD to help with her seizures, and he she was able to get relief from the CBD. So again, I had one patient, I had stories. I did my research. I saw a television program from somebody I trusted because I kind of trust Sanjay Gupta. I'm not going to front on low key. He's cool. Um, so then I had a patient in the early days, and it was all about the CBD. And it wasn't about the recreational side because I've mentioned this many times. When I have a extensive experience with cannabis recreationally. However, my experience with cannabis medicinally is, again, as I said, only 10 years. So I came into the game, with my own prejudice. For me, it was all about THC. It was all about THC, 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 THC. And then I'll give you that story one time about how that worked for me. But for epileptic patients, I didn't really have that experience. And then later on, when another product became available were vapes. Then I had a patient who was a patient who had epilepsy, and he was a young man. He was in his 20s, and his name was Eric. And he, again, it was just, yes, I'm still talking about this. No. Um, his name was Eric, and he used strictly the CBD vapes. Again, it was a higher price point product. Got a chance to ask him, and again, that's when I found out that he had seizures, and he used the vapes when he felt the seizure coming on to abate the seizure coming on. So experience after experience after experience, and then again, now they're one-on-one experiences for me. So, you know, to see folks get relief from something that affects millions and millions of people. Everybody is somebody, some person in most families has some type of epilepsy, and whatever scale. I know there's a scale, grand mal, petit mal, seizures. I'm not sure if there's any other indications, but obviously some are more prevalent than others. So in every family, somebody has that experience. So if you can find, or you can have a product that is not, again, there's seizure medications out here, but they're harsh, they're strong, they're not recommended for young people, they're not recommended for small people, they're not recommended for people who may be in a already fragile state of state of health. So again, you have to weigh the pros and cons. We have a we have a pretty thorough healthcare system here in the United States. We do major things for people across the country every day. Um, some would argue that there could be some better things for medical, medical and medical care in the United States. But that's not today's conversation. That's not today's argument. We are the Cannabis Chronicles. I'm your boy, Brother Bong. We are the Cannabis Chronicles, a weekly candid cannabis community conversation where we talk about our favorite subject, cannabis. And want to shout out to Best Buds Magazine, shout out to Cannabis Society, shout out to Normal, National Organization over Reform of Marijuana Law. That was the first cannabis advocacy program or advocacy group I ever knew. I knew about them through High Times Magazine. Shout out to High Times Magazine. They're back in print now. I used to call that our cannabis porn. So that was great. It was always great to see the pictures of the buds. And now, like I said, I say to people all the time, you know, the 16-year-old me inside is giddy and laughing and thinking this is crazy because this is what we do for a living. This is what we've done for a living for the past 10 years and what we want to continue doing because, again, I love helping people. I love seeing people get better. I am, again, as always said, I'm a pro cannabis. Been a pro cannabis person for a very long time, my whole life, I would say. So to put those two worlds together, to be able to align those two worlds, to bridge that those two worlds together, to build that bridge is awesome for me. So, because what we do, we discuss expanding safe access and awareness. We're going to talk about storing your medication. We're not talking about having your medication accessible for your children, for your pets. Yes, your pets can get into your cannabis, and yes, your pets can have a negative experience. So we talk about things like that. We talk about knowing your edibles. We talk about locking up your products. Yes, we have some fun. Yes, we talk about some subjects, some current events. We talk about the ruling in the proximity case in New York State. We talk about the podcast. We gonna have some guests. Both my co-hosts are down this week, man. Both shout out to JQ and Wild Bill. Hopefully you'll feel better, and we will get you both on the podcast and invite you. Let's see. No, I don't see how I do that. Let's see. let's see. I don't see any of my friends on, and uh, so we're just gonna keep on the solo here, man. We are damn near halfway through the show. I can't believe it's already 9:30. So we are the Cannabis Chronicles. So we talk about, again, we talk about certain things. We talk about access, safe access and awareness. We talk about why legalization alone doesn't equal education. It doesn't. Just because somebody is consuming cannabis, somebody doesn't mean that they know what they're consuming. Doesn't doesn't mean that they know the power of the plant. We are advocates and educators leading to the community change, leading constant community change, because again, it's always an ongoing battle with against the stigma. Again, going back to the old days, I remember when we would get the phone calls before it was legal, before it was adult use. If they could purchase flower from us when all we had were oral solutions, as I said. So a person who wants flour, trust me, unless you know what an oral solution is, man, if you know what an oral solution is, then maybe you want to get down with that. Ever, if you don't know what an oral solution is, you might not want to be involved with that. Uh, we are the Cannabis Chronicles. I'm your boy, Brother Bong. We are a weekly candid cannabis community conversation. Uh, Shout out. We may be getting a snowstorm. I saw it come across the feed. I'm not sure. Um, but que sera, sera, it is what it is in the winter time. Let's see. Let's go in here. Shout out to Happy Monkey. Shout out to our boys. Shout out to, see, I said that. Shout out to Happy Monkey. And as soon as I refresh my feed, who do I see but Vlad Bautista, who is the CEO and co-founder, global public speaker and award-winning advocate. He basically popped up on my screen. So shout out to him. Shout out to Ray and everybody who's working hard. And also congratulations on reopening your dispensary in Brooklyn. They have a dispensary in here in Washington Heights. They had the Brooklyn space for a bit. They had to close down because of the building. They got new space, fixed the building. I'm not sure whichever, but they're now back open in Brooklyn. So if you're in Brooklyn and you want to check out a really cool place, a really cool dispensary, and some people, a group of people who do it for the culture, not just for the clout, they do it for the culture. Not just for the glam, they do it for the culture. Not just for the gram, they do it for the culture. So shout out to Ray, shout out to Vlad, and everybody over at Happy Monkey. And he's talking about Bad Bunny. Shout out to Bad Bunny and his Super Bowl performance. What a halftime performance it was. And he broke down a lot of stuff. And you got to go back and look at the video because there's some things that they talked about Puerto Rico. Shout out to my friends and family who are of Puerto Rican descent. We love you, and we shout you out. And but for me, and don't like to go too political, but the current resident of you know where and you know who, uh, Puerto Rico had a huge hurricane during his first presidency, and I remember the photo op was him kind of tossing rolls of paper towels to those individuals who were in the audience. And I mean, yeah, paper towels are good if you spill the milk on the floor. I don't think it's gonna do too much good. I don't think a roll of a roll of paper towels is gonna do too good in a hurricane wrecked island. So there was a lot of just messages in there. So shout out to Bad Bunny and what he accomplished. And let's not forget, people, that Puerto Ricans are American. Puerto Rico is an American state, for lack of a better description. So those people who are Puerto Rican are of American descent. And let's not forget about the horrific things that this government did to women in Puerto Rico, not this generation, but 2 generations before, where, they sterilized millions of women. And that impact is still being felt today. But again, going off the political thing, again, cannabis and culture are hand in hand. There are certain things that we as Black and brown people in America, things we embrace, we have embraced, we are embracing, that the general population may not embrace, may not see, may not understand. I mean, just think about it. Still, people are still scratching their head about Kendrick Lamar's performance in the Super Bowl last year. And then Bad Bunny came and smacked him in the head with a 2x4, because that's what they needed in Puerto Rico at the time. They needed, real building supplies. They needed 2x4s and nails, and they needed real infrastructure and help, and not paper towels. But I mean, I think even part of his performance, part of Bad Bunny's performance, and I went back political, I'm sorry, but when they were dancing on the power lines, that was a symbolization of that. So again, check it out. Thank you for being brave for so many people. Thank you for continuing to be brave. Thank you for all that he's done. I mean, there was so many concerts he did this past summer where his contributions, he donated his whole proceedings and his whole ticket, for those less fortunate. So those are the kind of people that we want to gravitate to. Those are the kind of people we want to give their flowers to, so that kind of stuff matters. Whether you understand it or not, those kind of things matter. So we are the Cannabis Chronicles. I'm your boy, brother Bong, and we are a weekly candid cannabis community conversation where we talk about cannabis, but we talk about medical stuff. We talk about current events. We talk about we shout out our friends and our colleagues in the cannabis space. Getting back to shout out to Big Gas Dispensary and Big Gas Worldwide. If you are in New Paltz, New York, and you want to check out a really cool dispensary, check out our friends at Big Gas Dispensary. Big Gas Worldwide, all connected, but shout out to them. Shout out to Reem and his team over there in all the spaces that they do. Drinking some more tea. So we are the Cannabis Chronicles. I am Dr. Bong, aka Brother Bong, aka uh, JL Starr Enterprises, consulting, and all the things that we do here. Last week we talked about, the subject is cannabis medicine? And today's topic is cannabis is medicine, not just recreational. But again, as I said before, when I got into the space, I had come with a prejudice, for lack of a better word, about CBD, and I didn't really know like the power of the medical power of the plant. And as I am developing, because I feel this is an ongoing relationship, as I begin to understand, as I began to understand how, and begin to continue to understand how powerful it is medicinally. I was saying how I was THC king. I had already had my experience with THC. You couldn't tell me anything about it. But I had access, and I had these stories, and I had these people, but I didn't have a card. So once I got my medical card, then I had access to different products. And from time to time, like, we would get tester products. We would get things. If you had a card, then you could get, oh, we're trying out this new product. Why don't you give us your feedback on it? And that was really cool. So we kind of we got into, like I said, all we had were oral solutions. So I didn't want the yellow. So I was getting the blue and the green. Now, I had been dealing with chronic pain for many, many years. And one of the things that I found out about myself in that process is that I am highly sensitive to opioids. Opioids really, so if it looks like a 10, I need to take a 5. If it looks like a 5, I need to take a 2.5. Because although I'm a big guy, cannabis really, excuse me, opioids will really do a number on me. So, and because I didn't understand that in the beginning, I just knew that, that was really, it was really, really strong for me. So I had to walk a tightrope of working, living during the day in pain because my knees were just so in such pain that I just, it was just excruciating. So I would work and literally I would get off, like the minute I got off work, I would have a drink of, some water and my medicine. So by the time I got home, it would be kicking in and I would be feeling better and my knees would be relieved. Then after I'd eat, then the apex would hit and I would pass out. I would wake up the next day and I would be okay until I had to work again. And as soon as work kicked in, because I couldn't take the medicine before work, because if I took the medicine before work, then I would never get up for work. So I would have to deal with the pain, and it was just a cycle. So, and this continued on even into my beginning of my cannabis career. But as I said, once I got the card, then I had access to different products. So I just happened to have a green oral solution. And I didn't know dosing. I didn't know anything about dosing. I was just taking a dropper full and I didn't feel anything. What I felt, I didn't feel anything. So this one particular day, I was in pain. I was like, you know what, let me try the green. And so I saw the bottle, but the bottle was a bottle that just had a top. It didn't have a dropper on it. And I didn't have like a little sippy cup or cup to put it in to measure it, to say, okay, this is 1 milliliter, blah, 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 blah. So in my thinking, I said, you know what, I'll just drink a little bit and then I'll just measure what would be 1 milliliter. What I measured in my mouth was a lot more than a milliliter. But my first instinct was, should I spit it back in the bottle? And then my gag reflex was like, ew, no. So I said, oh, well, I swallowed it. So now I probably swallowed maybe 2 milliliters, maybe a little bit more, but it was definitely significantly more than I had been using before. So I went about my day. It was a day off, whatever. Like I said, I was in pain. But fam, friends, cannabis, canafan, I had a experience that I will never forget to this day. I literally had have to deal with chronic pain, and then I would have sciatica pain. So it was one of those times where both of those things were kicking in. And so I was like, I was kind of desperate. So that's why I tried the green. But about 45, 50 minutes, hour in, I started noticing that my sciatica had, and I'm not sure if you know what sciatica means, but it's a nerve that runs down our back of our butt and then down from our base of our spine to either right or left and down our butt, and usually you can feel it in your buttocks and either right or left, and then down your leg. Some folks experience pain, some folks experience numbness. I experience numbness, and it's scary because I feel like putting any weight on that numb limb is going to make me fall. So I'm in the midst of pain. My knees are killing me. My sciatica is acting up. And I was like, you know what? Let me just try this green. Let me give it a shot and see what works. Instead of taking it in a dropper, I couldn't find a dropper. Instead of me spitting it back in the bottle, I swallowed what I had in my mouth. So, like I said, it started to work. And then I started to feel like my knees were no longer in pain. So I'm going to say this is about a year into my experience, year into 2 years into it. So then I started using the green oral solution. And I got to tell you, friends, stoners, Canafam, since that day, since about 8 years ago, try to use green every single day, like my multivitamins. You take them like the multivitamins because that's how they work. They work that good. And so that was my experience with that. So again, it then opened up my eyes. I had seen the stories. I had seen what it done for patients before. So then again, I became a believer. So then I started to be able to talk to more people and educate more people on doing outreach and, expanding my career, expanded into Brooklyn, went from the Bronx to Brooklyn in the dispensary capacity, elevated, was elevated to, or elevated, helped elevate a dispensary to a level as outreach. And then the world changed when COVID hit. Everything shut down and everything kind of got compartmentalized. But I just knew, because I was working back in went from Brooklyn back to the Bronx. And I just knew that this was going to, just wipe everything out. But literally, they considered cannabis to be a, we call that useful. So we didn't lose work. We actually were one of the still open, we call it essential businesses we were. So we were open and we were working. And that's when, all of this began. You go back to the very beginnings of stereo. That's when we were in lockdown. And excuse me, I wasn't able to talk to you friends, you Canafam, you stoners, and how I was used to. I was in how am I going to talk to my friends? How am I going to talk to you folks? So because we had barriers up, we had face masks, we had this, we had that, but we still had social media, and that's where all of this came into being, and that was then. So now, we fast forward, learned so much more, and now I'm back to this platform because now I can up this platform and I can put it into uh, an email form, and I could have the email, and I could edit the email, and I can use it to create a podcast. So again, shout out to all of our friends. Shout out to DK Edibles. Shout out to Nahi Farms, Nicole and her team there. Shout out to Living Soil, Gaetano and Paulo and Manuel. Shout out to everybody over there. Shout out to Jeffrey Hoffman. Um, he's not my attorney, but if you need a cannabis attorney, check out Jeffrey Hoffman, Esquire. Shout out to Dr. Matthew Roman. So getting back to what we was talking about, epilepsy. So advise patients to continue their current anti-epileptic drugs until after therapy is initiated. Any CBD should be discontinued. Most patients prefer inhalation over oral administration and self-medicate throughout the day as much as their lifestyle permits. Some patients prefer to use oral THC in conjunction with inhaling. Always advised that they should share their goal with treatment with their neurologist, who will monitor their progress. The dose of THC should be titrated upwards to a level of psychoactivity that does not adversely affect their quality of life. And once on a stable regimen of THC, other anti-epileptics can be weaned off one at a time. So it is beneficial. It can be done. You can talk to your doctor and you can begin a regimen of how to deal with epilepsy and how it affects you. I'm your boy, Dr. Bong. No, I'm not a doctor. I just play one on this show. I just talk about a crap and I have some fun. But we talk about it, and it may be fun and it may be entertaining, but it's not funny. People and their health are not funny subjects. So we want to make sure that we respect all of our friends, our patients, and those who listen to us for advice. Cannabis edibles 101. Cannabis edibles may take up to 2 hours to fully take effect, making it easy to eat too much. So this would cause overconsumption. Okay. Now, when you eat or drink a cannabis product, they can feel several times stronger than cannabis products that are smoked. So when THC is broken down through the liver, which happens when you eat or drink cannabis, it affects the body differently. And this is why many people feel the effects of edibles more intensely than other forms of cannabis consumption. Remember, it's not a game. It's all fun. It's all cool, but it's not funny until you have an experience when you have had too much. Oral products are designed and designated to be metabolized in the liver. The onset is up to 2+ hours, and the duration, friends, are 4 to 12 plus hours. Say it again, 4 to 12 plus hours. Sublinguals absorb quickly and directly into the mouth. The onset is 15 minutes to an hour. The duration could be 90 minutes to 3 hours. So a sublingual would be an oral solution that you would put on your tongue or like a lozenge or something like that to make it work. To introduce the medicine into the body. Food products. Food products. Cannabis is added to different foods like gummies, baked goods, and drinks, which are metabolized, broken down through the liver as the product is digested. Okay, so again, that's going to take a while. That's going to take a long time. Okay, so that is an oral product. Also, capsules or tablets swallowed and absorbed into the digestive system, similar to a pill that does not contain cannabis. So which means it's the same thing as a capsule or a pill, but it's now a cannabis-based form. So those are your oral products. So your sublingual products would be your tinctures and your lozenges. A lozenge dissolves in the mouth or under the tongue. So basically, you want to make sure that you choose the right serving size. The right amount of serving as cannabis is different for everybody. The right amount also depends on what kind of cannabis experience you have, what kind of cannabis experience you want, and different things can impact how cannabis will affect you. And this one starts with how cannabis product you consume and how potent, how strong that is, and other things that may impact how cannabis affects you include your body size, right? Product form and potency, metabolism, stomach contents. That's absolutely right. So if you don't have anything on your stomach and you have an edible, it's going to smack you really, really hard and really, really fast. So make sure that you know and you understand that. Cannabinoid and terpene profile. Some people say indica, sativa, hybrid. They all have different physiological effects on us. So you want to make sure you take that into effect. And also terpenes, the terpene profile also has that effect on us as well. Set and setting. I cannot emphasize this more. Set and setting. You may have one experience on Wednesday that may be completely different in the same cannabis, the same form, on Saturday. And that is because the set and the setting may have changed. The set and the setting on Wednesday may have been happy and fun and light and joyful. And Saturday, it may have been a gloomy, doomy kind of experience. So that has something to do with it as well. And frequency of cannabis consumption. If you are a person who does not consume on a regular basis, I repeat, if you are a person who does not consume cannabis, whether it be edibles, whether it be vaping, whether it be smoking, if you don't do it on a regular basis, dip your toe into the pool. Don't just dive into the pool, but dip your toe. What do I mean by that? What do you mean by that, Dr. Bond? What I'm saying is that if you have an edible and somebody offers you, for example, say a cookie, and you're interested and you're of age and you want to try the cookie, don't eat the whole cookie. Cut the cookie in fours. Cut it in half and then cut it in half again. Okay? Now, it says right here, food products. It can be added to different food, like baked goods. Okay? They are digested and metabolized in the liver, and it can take 2+ hours and 4 to 12 hours. So what I mean is, if you're having a good time with your friends, just have a little bit of the infused cookie and then see how you feel. Come back, circle back in an hour or two. See how you feel. If you feel that you have had enough, then stop. But if you feel you want to try a little bit more, then have another quarter cookie. And then again, if you're going to be at the event, if you're going to be with your friends for several hours, then you have that luxury. Just remember that every again, that if you're consuming, then every part you consume, it starts back at zero, because everything has to go through your system and it has to be metabolized to the liver and it has to go through that process. So if you have an edible, stick with the amount you're going to have and take your time. Go low and slow. So we are the Cannabis Chronicles. I'm your boy, Brother Bong, and cannabis edibles in New York State may be up to 10 milligrams of THC. If you don't know where you're getting it from, that's why I suggest that folks take a shot and get your medical cannabis card, because then if you have a dispensary, whether it be adult use, whether it be medical, you have a record of what cannabis is. And trust me, New York is definitely serious about what our cannabis is and how it is presented. Metric is rolled out and rolling out as we speak. Shout out to Legacy Unites community. Shout out to Kayvon and Ojo and everybody there, man. We're doing some really cool things. So shout out to Legacy Unites community and everybody on that team. So getting back okay, so we got about 5 minutes left of the show. So I'm your boy, Brother Bong. I want to thank you for listening to today's show. We talked about epilepsy and how it has been, I've been cognizant of it throughout my life, and how once I discovered cannabis medicinally, helping folks. Shout out to the Figgy family. Fortunately, we no longer have Charlotte. Charlotte has passed on. She passed on, and epilepsy didn't take her away from us, but COVID did. And I wanted to tie that into how this is when this whole started. So this show is in memory of Charlotte, of young Charlotte Figgy, and all of our friends who battle these conditions every single day. Shout out to you, Amy Red. God bless, rest in peace, and everybody there on the other side. We are the Cannabis Chronicles. I'm your boy, Brother Bong. Shout out to Best Buds Magazine, DC, and his team. You can check them out on my Instagram, Brother Bong 420. Sage Genetics. Today's cannabis. Oh man, I didn't write it down in the notes. I don't remember it off the top of my head. So had that earlier, but again, as always, Sage Genetics, thank you for that. And the bouquet from you, Ascend LLC, Cannabis Society, our boy Grizz, and everything is popping up. So listen, if you want to get involved, check out Cannabis Society. That's cannabissociety.com. We want you to be a soldier with us. And you might get a chance to meet Brother Bong or Wild Bill or even Grizzly. Chill Pipes. Excuse me, folks. Chill Pipes and Bud's Feed. Shout out to Justin and his team in both of those endeavors. Big Gas Dispensary and Big Gas Worldwide. Good job, Reem. Keep up the good work. Our boy DK Edibles, Dior King. Listen, we talked about infused. Billy had a birthday a couple years ago. Wild Bill, and we had the infused meal. But the food was so good that I kept eating. And as I said to you earlier, you got to make sure you be concerned about, how much you consume, because every bite then starts you back at zero. So shout out to them. Shout out to Nahi Farms. Shout out to Living Soil. Shout out to Jeffrey Hoffman. And shout out to Dr. Matthew Roman, whose book we cite on a regular basis, The Clinician's Guide to Medical Cannabis. Remember, the right word for it is cannabis. The ruling on the proximity case in New York State is out. The ruling basically reads, I'm not going to read it to you because it's legal stuff, but basically the businesses that were established and already have their establishment are not going to have to move. They're not going to have to deal with that. So that is a big check in their favor, in those established businesses' favor. So shout out to them, to those companies, including my friends from Happy Monkey. Shout out to Happy Monkey. Shout out to Ray. Shout out to Vlad and their teams on both Uptown and in Brooklyn. Shout out to again. If you want to check us out later on in the podcast platforms, we're going to be an Apple platform, or Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartMusic, Podcast Index, YouTube, and the mothership of all of us, of the Cannabis Chronicles, is buzzsprout.com. That's Buzz, B-U-Z-Z, Sprout, SPROUT.com. Check us out there, and YouTube. Know your edibles. Know your edibles. Safely store your cannabis products. If you've overconsumed, just chill out. If you have access to some vitamin C. If you have access to CBD, introduction to CBD will level out that psychotropic, and you may feel better. You're going to feel better right away. Just remind yourself that the effects are temporary. Hydrate and rest. Take deep breaths. Call your support system. Find an activity that gives you support. Reevaluate, your serving size the next time you consume. Remember, save and can safely store your cannabis products, because you don't want your kids to get into it. You don't want your pets to get into it. So I am your boy, Brother Bong. As always, every week it's my pleasure to talk to you, and this week is no different. We are the Cannabis Chronicles. I'm your boy, Brother Bong, and we are out. Thank you so much to all of our partners, friends. Peace.